Since it's the third video of Chapter 6, we'll be talking about hair and nails, and it corresponds to Section 6.2 in your textbook. Here we'll be talking about the three types of hair, the structure of a hair and its follicles, some purposes that hair serves, and also the structure and functions of our finger and toenails. Cutaneous glands, hair, and nails that we have are actually accessory organs or appendages of our skin. Our hair and our nails are mostly dead keratinized cells, while the keratin that makes up our epidermis is soft and pliable. The keratin that makes up our hair and nails is much tougher, and that's due to cross-linking or specialized bonding between the keratin molecules. The technical name for a hair is a pilus, and if we were to use the plural of that word, we would say pili. Like we talked about, hair is a slender filament of keratinized cells. It grows in a tube from the hair follicle. Most of our bodies are covered in hair. Believe it or not, most of our arms, legs, trunk have up to 70 hairs per square centimeter. So think about that for a second. Draw an imaginary box on your arm, 1 centimeter on each side. You have 55 to 70 hairs in there. Most of them are so small that we can't even see them. Our faces have even more than that. The hair that's on our head, our scalp hair, most people have up to 100,000 hairs on their head. Most of the differences we see between individuals in their hairiness comes from hair texture rather than hair number. So we have three types of hair. The first one, lanugo, is only seen in fetuses. It's found in months 6 through 9 of fetal development, that third trimester. Very soft, downy, unpigmented hair. Generally, it's replaced by vellus by the time of birth, and this is persisting through most of a person's life. In adult women, it makes up 2/3 of their hair. In adult men, only 1/10 of their hair. Children have only vellus except for their eyebrows, eyelashes, and the hair of their scalp. Terminal hair is longer, coarser, and darker. Okay, so this still forms adults' eyelashes, eyebrows, and the hair on their scalp. Also forms axillary or armpit hair and pubic hair. And men also have more of this terminal hair on their faces, beards, mustaches. But they'll also be likely to have more on their trunk, their chest, and on their arms and legs. We can divide hair into 3 zones. So if we're looking at the hair follicle from the side, we can see the bulb. Okay, so this is where the hair originates. We have the bulb. And then we have the roots, which is the remainder of the hair in the follicle. And then we have the shaft above the skin surface. The nutrient supply for the hair is the derma papilla. If we look at a cross-section of hair, and we'll see a cartoon of this in a couple slides, we'll see that the cross-section shows 3 distinct regions. On the inside, we have the medulla, which is a core that's mostly empty space. It's mostly air. There are some loosely arranged cells there. Then we have the cortex, and this is the thickest layer. It has the keratinized tough cells. And then the outside is the cuticle. Okay, so the cuticle is really flat, scaly cells. They're very thin, and they kind of overlap each other like shingles on a roof. If you've ever seen someone tease their hair and they brush their hair, comb their hair in the reverse direction, they are making that cuticle rough to give their hair that texture. The hair follicle is a tube that extends into the dermis. Sometimes it goes all the way into the hypodermis. And here we see the root sheath and the connective tissue associated with the root sheath. We also have hair receptors. So these are sensory nerves that go around the follicles, and they provide information if the hair is moving, if maybe the wind is blowing or an insect is crawling on you. You would know it because of the hair receptors. These are also the things that sense pain if somebody yanks on your hair. We also have the piloerector muscles, and these are smooth muscles, involuntary muscles. You can't move them on command. But when they contract, they give you goosebumps. Okay, so there is a good cartoon of this that we're going to look at on the next slide. The texture of your hair, whether it's straight or wavy or curly, is dependent on the shape of each individual hair, which is really neat. We'll talk about that in a second. Also, the color of your hair is dependent on what pigments are found in the hair. So black or brown hair has a lot of eumelanin. Red hair has the pigment pheomelanin. Blonde hair has more pheomelanin and less eumelanin. And then gray or white hair have more air present in the medulla and have almost no melanin at all. So here's what this looks like for us. The curlier a person's hair is, the flatter the cross-section appears. The straighter a person's hair is, the rounder it is. We have the medulla in the center, mostly empty space. We have the thickest layer is the cortex, and then we have the cuticle of flat cells on the outside. We have more eumelanin in the dark hair, more pheomelanin in the red hair, and a larger airspace in the gray hair. Our hair grows in a pretty distinct cycle. So we have anagen phase, which is the growing phase. Most hair, if left on its own, will grow for 6 to 8 years. It grows as stem cells multiply in the dermis, and then the specialized hair cells then multiply and keratinize, and it grows outward and pushes outward. During the catagen phase, the hair stops growing, the bulb at the end of the hair keratinizes, so right here is going to keratinize, and the follicle is going to break down. During telogen phase, this is a resting phase, the club hair is going to fall out, and it's going to take some rest, regain its nutrients, and then it'll go back to the anagen phase. Typically, we lose 50 to 100 hairs a day as part of this normal cycle. Typically, hairs on our scalp will grow for 6 to 8 years, and then we'll go through that dying process in about 2 to 3 weeks. And then we'll rest for a month or two before starting to grow again. There are some things that can influence this. For instance, if a person has a period of very poor nutrition, if a person goes on a very strict diet for a while and there's less nutrients available, a lot of cells can go through the catagen and then telogen phase simultaneously. Sometimes people who lose weight rapidly also notice they have a lot of hair falling out. Additionally, if a person is very sick and their body is using a lot of nutrients to heal from an infection, you may notice more hair loss for a short period of time. Alopecia is the name of baldness. We have some genetic causes of baldness and hormonal causes of baldness. The opposite of this, hirsutism, is when there is excessive hairiness on parts of the body other than the scalp. So we're going to wrap up with a quick discussion of your nails. Your fingernails and toenails are derivatives of the stratum corneum. They're thin, dead cells that have a lot of cross-linking of the keratin that makes them very tough. Have you ever wondered why you have fingernails in the first place? Fingernails evolved because they help us in grooming, especially if you think before we lived in nice houses with access to running water and good health care. If you needed to, say, do something gross like lice out of your hair, fingernails could help with that process. They could improve your grooming. Having fingernails allowed early humans to be able to have access to food more easily. They allow us to do fine motor skills at certain points. They're also kind of like a backstop for our fingertips, so they can allow our fingertips to gather more sensory information. The nail plate is kind of what we think of as the visible portion of our fingernail, and it has a free edge, that outer edge, the nail body, and then the nail root goes under the nail fold. The nail groove is kind of the division between your fingernail and the skin adjacent to your fingernail. The nail bed is where the skin goes underneath the skin and the nail plate come together. And the nail matrix is where mitosis is going on, allowing your fingernails and your toenails to grow.